Hey, welcome in. Well, Joe Rogan has been blasting CNN recently. He's not letting up. Here's the headline. Rogan tees off on the effing propagandists at CNN after Cuomo firing. Their ratings are dog shit. And Rogan has good reason to hate these guys. I mean, they're the ones who said that he had taken horse dewormer. They've also claimed that he's far right and conspiracy theorists and all kinds of things. They're constantly attacking him. They don't like that he has conversations with people about things that people actually care about in an honest way, in a non-CNN narrative way. In other words, he doesn't pretend that he knows the answer before he's heard the question, because in their minds, they've got all the answers that you'll ever need. So why bother even thinking? That's what the person who puts the words on the screen that Don Lemon reads off is for. But anyway, famed podcast host Joe Rogan slammed left-wing propaganda network, CNN, during an episode late last week in the wake of the network's scandal involving star host Chris Cuomo, whom the network fired over the weekend as it conducted an investigation into him. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, you hire somebody with the express purpose of having them lie, somebody who is okay with lying night after night. I mean, by definition, that is a scumbag, right? So it's hardly surprising when he turns out to be a scumbag. But anyway, quote, I think CNN is realizing that their ratings are dog shit. That's from Rogan, adding that the network was embarrassing itself with these highly polarizing editorial personalities like Stelter and Don Lemon. It's called preaching to the converted. They're holding on to their core audience who doesn't care if things are real or not real. It doesn't really matter, as long as it confirms their prior biases and assumptions. Quote, I personally, maybe this is just my bias, I want the news. I want objective news. I want someone to tell me what are the facts of what's going on and what's happening. I don't want your ideological slant. I don't want this left-wing propaganda network, which is what CNN has become. The way I look at CNN now is so different than the way I looked at CNN 15, 20 years ago. Now, keep in mind, 20 years ago, they were ramping up for a war over imaginary WMD, so it wasn't that much better back then, frankly. Anyway, I used to look at them as like, this is how I get the news. This is unbiased, professional news. They're going to tell me what's happening in Pakistan and what's happening in, Mogadishu. These are the real journalists that are telling you the news. Now, they were always biased, but at that point, there still seemed to be some desire, some level of principle, whereby they had to hold on to some level of objectivity, or to at least, appear to be objective. That's gone now. They know their audience doesn't want that. Now, I do think that just a straight-up news channel, actually, there is a market for that now, because if they were truly just about the news, no commentary, none of that, they would be the only one. It says in this article from CNBC, there's a place for CNN in the proposed $4.3 billion combination of Warner Media and Discovery. Billionaire media mogul John Malone told CNBC in a recorded interview, quote, I would like to see CNN evolve back to the kind of journalism that it started with and actually have journalists, which would be unique and refreshing. And this is from the longtime chairman of Liberty Media, which is a major shareholder in Discovery. I do believe good journalism could have a role in this future portfolio that Discovery Time Warner is going to represent. So maybe they'll turn into something much better. Because just trying to hold on to the Trump derangement syndrome crowd is not really a long-term solution. But anyway, more from Rogan here. Quote, now I look at them, I'm like, you fucking propagandists. Like, what are you? The right arm of Pfizer? Like, what are you doing? It's just I think there's a market for real news, and it's really hard to find that now. It's really hard, especially outside of independent sources. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And this line here, the right arm of Pfizer. Well, there's something interesting about that. Check out this tweet here.
Is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the royal wedding is brought to you by Pfizer.
And now a CBS Sports Update brought to you by Pfizer.
Meet the Press Data Download, brought to you by Pfizer.
This portion of CBS This Morning sponsored by Pfizer.
On how to find the hidden sugars in the American family diet, sponsored by Pfizer.
Yeah, all those Joe Rogan took horse dewormer headlines, making a lot more sense, aren't they? So on that note, if they can call a medicine that the developers of were awarded a Nobel Prize for a horse dewormer, then we can certainly call CNN horse shit. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Please subscribe, like, and share. That really helps me out. If you just like to listen, there's the podcast Radio Baloney. It's on pretty much every platform. If you look for it, you will find it. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.